There's been a lot of news as of late in regards to the renewable energy space in Australia, in particular green hydrogen. Jack, do you care to elaborate on these points?
Yeah, there has been a lot of news of late, and that's because there's been a lot of exciting announcement from state governments around grants and funding for the green hydrogen sector. The first one I'll start off with is Fortescue Future Industries announcing a $1 billion electrolyser factory for Gladstone, which is really interesting development.
And this is a total of a $1 billion operation that will be funded towards over time. But Jack, for those who don't know what an electrolyser is, can you please elaborate on that?
Oh, yeah, sure. So an electrolyser is the key component for hydrogen production, or green hydrogen production in particular. It's the machine that splits the water atoms into hydrogen and oxygen, and thus producing the hydrogen. So these components will be in extremely high demand going forward. So as Australia going to be a key producer of green hydrogen, this will bode well for them having access to this key component, but it also opens up a huge export market for FFI to export them to the globe. And I imagine that would have positive impacts on the FMG share price, right, Joey?
Yes, of course. So Fortescue Future Industries isn't spinning off as its own listed entity. It will stay under the Fortescue Metals code. So we should expect a lot of investor demand to come through for Fortescue moving forward. This is a great project, obviously. Australia is looking to become a world leader in renewable energies and green hydrogen. So a push like this is really cementing our spot globally. And I think what's quite comforting is that Fortescue will be allocating 10% of the total NPAT to the project. Investors can be rest assured that funding will go there accordingly. Jack, we just touched on the Queensland's latest initiative. What about New South Wales?
Yeah, it's a real state of origin tussle there, with the very next day, the New South Wales government announcing a $3 billion grant program, hoping to stimulate up to $80 billion in investment in green hydrogen. So while to my knowledge, there aren't any ASX listed companies involved in New South Wales green hydrogen production, this bodes really well for some Barclay Pearce private clients, which will be going public next year. Those include Verdant Earth Technologies and Sweetman Renewables, which are in the biomass to hydrogen industry, but then also H2X Global, who are looking to build hydrogen fuel cell vehicles.
Yeah, and that was a great point you just touched on, that we don't really have any green hydrogen producers in these states at the moment. However, we did see that sentiment kind of push forward some stocks over the last week. In particular, we had the new ASX ETF, hydrogen ETF with the ticker code HGEN come on board. And we've seen that perform very well over the last handful of days, as have other companies such as Province Resources, Pure Hydrogen and Hazer. But like you said, these won't have a direct impact on any ASX stocks.
No, not at this stage. But what that does is it attracts investment to New South Wales for green hydrogen producers. So, for example, Influent Blue Energy, another Barclay Pearce client who will be going public next year, that could potentially attract them to want to set up a project in New South Wales. And they just announced a new non-executive director, Chris Salisbury, who's the ex-Rio chief executive of Iron Ore. He's also the chairman of Deep Yellow Uranium Play and BCI Minerals. So a really highly experienced candidate joining their board continues to add credibility not only to IBE, but to green hydrogen in the future, and to solidify itself as a future key export for Australia.
Yeah, great point. And just touching on that a bit further, I remember you and I had a discussion about this not too long ago, that a lot of investors were quite concerned that the amount of money that would be needed to fund it towards hydrogen was immense, and that there needed to be a lot of government support and privatised support as well. But moving forward, after these announcements of Queensland and New South Wales, how do you see this faring out for other states?
Yeah, there'll be a real tussle, I think, between the states to kind of attract the investment. We saw New South Wales come out with that announcement right after Queensland. So there's all indications that Victoria's soon to announce green hydrogen funding. WA has really led the space, announcing ambitious targets there. And they've also got a hydrogen minister, Alana Tiernan. So WA really was at the forefront of promoting green hydrogen production in Australia.
So there is currently a huge opportunity for hydrogen investment in Australia. For more information on how you can enter the market, please click the link in the description below.